Good morning, everyone. You guys know what today is? Today is Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm curious as to if today is the biggest football game of the year, and I'm curious as to who you are going for. Folks, I love getting on here. I really appreciate the connections and the friendships that I've made with people literally all over the world. I love being a part of this, and I'm just grateful. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for coming on my live this morning. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And today is Super Bowl Sunday. You've got the New England Patriots and the Seattle um, are in it, and just excited for the Seahawks and the Patriots to actually be in a Super Bowl. So this will be exciting. And I'm curious as to who you guys might be going for the Super Bowl game tonight. And it should be a fun game. But I'm really excited to get on today. And, I'm going to be talking about something that affects 93% of us. It's called insulin resistance. Most people don't even know that they have it. But before I get started, I would love to know where each and every one of you are tuning in from. So if you wouldn't mind, drop your location in the chat. Okay, drop your location. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Okay, this information could change your health if you're struggling with your health. And if there's somebody that you know that needs to hear this, feel free to share this live with them so that they could hop on, they can listen, they can ask questions. South Africa, BLS1, thank you for hopping on. I feel like I've had a lot of people over the last couple days get on here from South Africa. So appreciate that. I think that's a country that I would love to visit at some point. So so thank you for hopping on. And so as we tune in, let me know where you guys are tuning in from. But, as Solomon said in the Bible, in all you're gaining, gain understanding. And let me tell you, understanding insulin resistance, it changed everything for me. Okay. Many, many of us don't realize that insulin resistance is at the root of so many health issues like PCOS, infertility, high blood pressure, and even non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, just to name a few. So understanding and reversing this can address so many symptoms of chronic diseases that we often treat separately. So let's all dive into this together, okay? And again, as you guys tune in, let me know where you're tuning in from. We've got South Africa, we've got Arizona. And whether you've been following me or you're new here, I want to welcome you to my live. I'm really excited to get on this morning. And so I nearly lost everything a couple different times because of insulin resistance. This is something that affects 93% of Americans. And the scary part is that most people don't even know that they have it because it is rarely tested for. But it is a major driver of heart disease, which happens to be the leading cause of death worldwide. Now, here's the deal. If you want to make a big impact in business or in life, you need to be able to solve a major problem. And right now, the biggest health issue in the world is insulin resistance. Okay. And Lisa, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. That's what this is all about, is improving our health in ways that don't require meds or diets or crazy exercises. So right now, insulin resistance is the biggest health issue in the world. And over the past 2 years, it's been 2 years now, actually over 2 years, I have been able to improve my insulin sensitivity in ways that doctors are completely shocked over. Okay, even my kidney doctor. Some of you know my story, some of you don't, but in November of 2014, I donated one of my kidneys to my sister's husband. And I'm super grateful for that. And it was 7 years later after donating the kidney where I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And my nephrologist said, Troy, if you don't lose weight, if you don't change things, you're going to end up on dialysis. And I'm not going to lie, like this completely scared the crap out of me because I've always been healthy. Like I've always been healthy. And so when my doctor told me that my one kidney was failing, that scared me. This is something that I just can't keep to myself. I'm on a mission to share everything that I've learned to be able to help as many people as I can. Now, if you've never heard of insulin resistance, I encourage you to Google it, research it, because this is going to be a hot health topic for years to come. Now, I'm going to share some things that might frustrate you guys a little bit. And here's why. This should frustrate you. It frustrates me. When you go to your doctor and your cholesterol is too high, your doctor usually prescribes a drug called a statin. And there's over a billion people, billion with a B, okay, that are on statins. And maybe you have been told that that is the only reliable way to lower cholesterol. But it's not true. Way back in 1990, in the early 90s, okay, there was some of you actually may even remember Rexall drugs. Rexall used to be the biggest drugstore in the world. And back in 1990, they created a blend of plant-based fibers that they said was going to change the world. And so they put 4 different patents on it so that nobody could copy it or replicate it. So I have this right before every meal that I have. But they said that this was going to change the world. And they put 4 patents on it to make sure that nobody could copy it. Folks, there's 3 things that I'm going to talk about. And 2 of these things are things that are simple, they're easy, that will help you to improve insulin sensitivity. Okay, I have to be very careful with my words and how I describe this, but I want you guys to understand that if you are dealing with insulin resistance, it can be improved because insulin sensitivity can be improved, right? Insulin resistance can be improved. And what I'm going to share with you has been studied by the Cleveland Clinic, Brigham Young University, UCLA, Stanford, UNLV, Columbia University. How many of you have ever heard of the University of Sydney, right? In Australia, they are the blood sugar experts of the world. And I think what I'm going to share with you is going to completely blow you away. Now, here's the thing, okay? Right here in the United States, we unfortunately are one of the worst countries when it comes to metabolic health, okay? Let me see here. Hold on a second, folks. Okay, the US happens to be one of the worst countries. But it's also worse in parts of the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Latin America. But the point I'm making is that there are people literally all over the world who are affected by this. 3 out of 4 Americans are overweight or obese. 54% of our country. 54% of our country is diabetic or pre-diabetic. Kurt, I got that from Costco. I love it. They actually have a bigger one now, and I'm actually thinking of going and switching out to the bigger one. Prisha Singh, thank you for the follow. Okay, but think about that. I want you guys to think about this. Okay, and I think that this will kind of put some perspective. Think about your family reunion. Okay, how many of your loved ones face these challenges? Think about this. Okay, how many of your loved ones face these challenges? Okay, you notice how the Bible tells us that no good tree bears bad fruit. Well, we know what the root is. The root happens to be insulin resistance, but the fruit of the tree is high blood pressure, it's high cholesterol, it's neuropathy, it's diabetes, it's PCOS, it's erectile dysfunction. It is all of these symptoms that people struggle with. And once again, I say, think about your family reunion. How many of your loved ones face these challenges? It's crazy to think that an astounding 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. So if you struggle with belly FAT, if you struggle with skin tags or inflammation, insulin resistance is at play. Okay. And our focus is on insulin resistance, which happens to be the root cause behind health issues like obesity, diabetes, fatty liver, Alzheimer's, okay, dementia, which we now know to be type 3 diabetes, heart disease, PCOS, and so many other symptoms. Okay. And let me ask you this. If you had a solution to insulin resistance, whose life could you change? Whose life could you change? You know, I wish I knew about this 20 years ago because, you know, my dad passed away on Easter Sunday, 2017. I had a brother in January of 2005 who was 33 years old when he unfortunately took his life, you know. And I think about this. How many people around me are struggling with their health? And have I ever, you know, I wish I would have known because I know I would have done something important. Good morning, Fadon. And thank you to everyone who is sharing this, who is tapping the screen. Thank you so much for this. Here's the part, ladies and gentlemen, that no one wants to tell you. You walk into a doctor's office with IBS and migraines and cholesterol, and let's just say that you go to 3 different doctors, okay? You're going to pay 3 different copays, and you're going to walk out with 3 different medications, and not one of those touches the real root cause of your health issues. We know what the root cause is, right? It is called insulin resistance. Folks, what happens when you stop taking those meds? What do you think happens to the symptoms that you're struggling with? Would you mind just dropping that in the chat? What happens to the symptoms when you stop taking the meds? Like what happens, right? Raymond, good morning. Okay, right? Diane, you're absolutely right. They come right back. I want you guys to imagine something. What if instead of chasing the symptoms, we tackled the one thing that's causing them all? That would make the most sense, right? But you guys realize that that is what is not happening. In fact, the complete opposite. And Min Walker, thank you for the follow. You guys realize that that's the complete opposite that is happening in our healthcare, right? We treat the symptoms, right? When you go to a doctor, they diagnose and they treat the symptoms. Not one time do they ever really talk to you about fixing the root cause. Folks, insulin resistance affects over 93% of us. And it's only getting worse globally. So why are we all struggling with this? I want you to think about your own health as I talk. Are you dealing with constant fatigue? Are you tired all the time? Are you carrying extra weight that you can't lose no matter what? Do you have cravings? And I'm not just saying cravings, but I'm talking about late at night, you're craving sugar and salt, right? But about migraine headaches, I had these for 23 years. What about high blood pressure or high cholesterol? What about fertility problems? Or maybe things like psoriasis or skin tags? Okay, these are all things that are caused by insulin resistance. And this is why I get on these lives every single day, because most doctors are not talking about insulin resistance, which happens to be the root cause behind a lot of these issues. Honestly, even when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease and I had all of these other symptoms like migraines and acid reflux and brain fog and sleep apnea, not one time did my doctor ever say, hey, this is what you have. Never do they explain why your A1C is so high. I think it is so important for us to understand why we have these health issues, but most important, what can we do to fix it? And Pilco, thank you for the follow. So, I love getting on here. The good news is that insulin resistance can be improved. I have seen more people in the last 2 years overcome type 2 diabetes. I've seen more people lose weight when they couldn't. I've seen more people who have been told by their doctor that they're going to be dealing with something for the rest of their life, and now they're no longer dealing with it. Okay, I've got to be very careful in how I share this information, but this is why I teach people how to fix insulin resistance. It's important to understand what is going on. And I would encourage you to, be mindful and pay attention to what's going on inside of your bodies, much like you would respond to a flashing check engine light in our car, right? If the check engine light comes on, we know something's wrong. And AS2025, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Okay. So I'm going to show you 2 simple, effective ways to improve insulin sensitivity naturally without crazy workouts and without feeling like you have to be on a specific diet for the rest of your life. And I'm going to be talking about a tool that is helping people all over the world. 66 countries it's available in, by the way. So whether you are dealing with type 2 diabetes, weight issues, or anything else, this tool is changing lives. And that's what I love about it. Okay. I had stage 4 kidney disease. I had migraines. I had acid reflux, brain fog, all of these things. And all those things improved. Sally M, thank you for the follow. And so if you're struggling with your health, stick around. Okay. And let's talk about how to get your health back on track. Okay. And thank you so much. And I've pinned a form here. Okay. So that if you want to, hold on a second. Let me get rid of this. Okay. So stick around. So what is insulin? Okay. Insulin is not your friend. Okay. And user 562. And so user 562, your exact reason is why I do these lives every day. Right. I've pinned a form here so that any one of you can stay in touch. Okay. Where is that form? Do you guys see the form? Yeah, it's pinned. Okay. So you should see in the bottom left corner, there should be a form. And when it comes available again, I'll pin it again. But this is exactly why I get on here and I teach this, because this helps you to improve your insulin sensitivity. Good morning. Hello, Jesus. So let's talk about insulin for a second. Okay. Insulin is a hormone. And what happens with insulin is it causes things to grow. But insulin acts like a key to unlock your cells so that the glucose from the foods that you've eaten can enter your cells, where your cells will use this for energy. I want you to understand something though. There's only 2 stages of your life where you want to be insulin resistant, and that is puberty and pregnancy, because this is where it helps your body to grow. But outside of that, folks, too much insulin becomes a major problem. Okay? Insulin is not your friend. It's not. So, why is this so important? Why is this conversation, why does it matter? Because 3 out of 4 Americans are overweight or obese. 93% of us have some level of insulin resistance. 54% of our country is diabetic or pre-diabetic. Cardiovascular disease, autoimmune disorders, I mean, they're all skyrocketing. And it's not just physical health, right? It's fertility, it's, PCOS, erectile dysfunction, it's anxiety. And it almost seems like every single person that I come in contact with has these health issues. And what's frustrating, good morning, Kim Teen. What's frustrating is that we are often given medications for each symptom, but they don't fix the root cause, which happens to be insulin resistance. So let's change that today, okay? Let's change that today. And so if you're struggling with health issues like kidney disease, I had stage 4 kidney disease, or you've been recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or maybe you've lived with it for years and you're wondering when it will all end. Okay, this is why I do these lives. Okay, I'm here to help. Okay, what I offer is a natural approach that serves as an alternative to what you might already be doing. Okay, user 408, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. So, look around us, right? If we went to our family reunion, okay, how many of our friends and family are affected and struggling with these health challenges? Aging does not have to mean a slowing metabolism, okay? It doesn't. And as I mentioned, I'm going to share 2 simple things that you can do that will help you to start improving insulin sensitivity, okay? And so let's talk about this, okay? What I help people with is an alternative to what you might already be doing, okay? There's a lot of people that I come in contact with that are on medications. They're struggling. It's actually making them sick being on all these medications. And most people have no idea that insulin resistance can even be improved, right? If you've ever been told that, type 2 diabetes is a lifetime disease, first and foremost, it is not. You can fix it just like you can insulin sensitivity. Okay. So think about the meds that you're on. A lot of them have been known to have a laundry list of side effects. And believe it or not, they have shown to lose their effectiveness after about 1 year or 2 years of using it. And here's where your doctor is either upping the dosage because the meds don't work, or maybe now you've got side effects. So your doctor is putting you on even more meds, okay, to combat the side effects. And Wayne Jackson, thank you for the follow, okay? Folks, I have a friend who lives in Tucson, Arizona. In Priceless, I don't have it anymore, okay? I was able to improve it. I have a friend who used to be the director of a heart hospital for over 10 years. And during that time, none of her patients with high blood pressure or high cholesterol were able to stop their medications. And this is because the root cause was not being discussed or treated. And Dale, thank you for the rose. Appreciate that. And thank you for the follow. Andrea, thank you. Okay. So not one of those patients who had high blood pressure and high cholesterol were able to stop their meds. And this is because the root cause was not being discussed or treated. It was just a Band-Aid solution, right? Folks, most doctors are not talking about insulin resistance, which happens to be the root cause behind these issues. No one talks about it. And this is why I am passionate about sharing this information with you. Because, folks, you can have the symptoms from insulin resistance and never even know it because nobody talks about it. And I do want to share this. Medication alone does not truly heal your body. And elevate your health. Thank you so much. It's changed mine as well. And I love that it's changed yours. Folks, there is a tool that can help you control insulin resistance, which leads to actual healing. So in the United States, think about this. We are seeing rising rates of obesity and diabetes and cardiovascular disease and all of these things. So let's talk about the solutions, okay? Now, the first step is understanding your symptoms and connecting them to the root cause. We've got to connect the dots, okay? Once you do that, you can start finding real solutions, okay? Now, if any of these symptoms resonates with you, I want you to type the number 1 in the chat, okay? And let's dive into what's really going on and how we can fix this. And some of these might hit home for you, so be honest with yourself. How many of these do you struggle with, right? No, go on. Charlie, I don't know if you can hear it, but Charlie's chasing. Um, I appreciate people that do things for a career, but please don't come on my live promoting being a loan officer, okay? So I will immediately block you guys. Some of these might hit home for some of you, okay? How many of you deal with skin issues like psoriasis or eczema? Maybe you've got the dark patches of skin on your neck or your armpits that won't wash off. How many of you have adult acne, right? What about stubborn weight, especially around your midsection that won't budge no matter what it is that you do? Okay. Remember, insulin is a fat storing hormone. When insulin is high, your body is storing it. When insulin is low, that's when the fat's got to go. Seriously. When insulin is low, your body is literally burning your stored FAT. It's getting rid of it. This is why you notice your belly shrinks, your love handle shrinks, right? The visceral fat that surrounds your organs starts to shrink and go away because your body is using that as its primary source of fuel. It's absolutely amazing. But remember, when insulin is high, your body's storing it, okay? So for any of you that you feel like you're eating clean, you're eating 1 to 2 meals or smaller meals, it's not about eating less, it's about eating less often, but you can improve your weight without the need for meds or diets, crazy exercises, okay? How many of you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, right? Both of these are linked to insulin resistance. But guess what your doctor is likely to do? Put you on meds. Right? Rarely do they ever talk about fixing the root cause so that your blood pressure and your cholesterol can normalize naturally. And Pilco, thank you for that. Kim, Teen, okay? How many of you have migraines or headaches? What about the aches and pains like arthritis, right? Inflammation like plantar fasciitis, bursitis, colitis, okay? Priceless, yes, I had stage 4 kidney disease, okay? How many of you have ever heard of lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, okay? Believe it or not, there are more and more people dealing with this. What about hypoglycemia, okay? Low blood sugar. How many of you feel the need to eat constantly, or maybe you're suffering from, neuropathy or some other things, right? They're all related to insulin resistance. Here's a big one. Type 3 diabetes. Have you ever heard of it? It's insulin resistance in the brain. And it is linked to Alzheimer's and dementia. And what's scary, this is the scary part. It can take 10 to 20 years before insulin resistance leads to a diabetes diagnosis. But the good news is you can take action now to prevent this. Seriously. And if you've ever been diagnosed with diabetes, prediabetes or type 2, that's a huge red flag. But here's the things. These symptoms aren't just normal aging, right? They're signals from your body that something is off. And now you know that insulin resistance is the culprit, right? And if you have diabetes, okay, you have an 81% increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. You have an 80% increased risk of developing cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes. I want you to think of insulin resistance and use your 562. That's what I'm doing. I'm happy to share that. Okay. And let me pin this just in case some of you have to go. Here's a form that you can fill out to stay in touch with me. But I want you to think of insulin resistance like a fire that is burning out of control in your body. Just like, look, think of all the symptoms that you have. Okay. And new sparkling, thank you for the follow. And thank you for that. Right? Think of insulin resistance as an out of control fire in our bodies, right? Just like how the smoke signals that there is a fire, okay? The symptoms that you all have, that is the smoke to the fire. And when you focus on putting the fire out, you notice that when you put a fire out, the smoke fades, right? The smoke is still there for a little bit, but it will fade over time. The same thing applies to our health. When you put that fire out, the symptoms start to improve. When you increase your insulin sensitivity, you will notice that the smoke will start to fade away. But how many people, okay, this is the problem. Many people end up with prescriptions for migraines and high blood pressure and high cholesterol, okay? Seriously, that is the reality. But treating the symptoms, right, the smoke, without addressing the root cause, it's only letting this problem grow bigger and stronger. It's crucial to listen to your body's warning signals. Remember the flashing check engine light in your car, right? If we see that go off, we know that something's wrong. And you can choose to ignore the warnings, but eventually you're going to face bigger issues. So how do we manage the excess insulin in our bodies? Now, a major contributor to this, folks, is how often you and I are eating, okay? How many of us have been told to eat 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3 times throughout the day, right? They call this the STAD diet, the standard American diet, right? And let's see here. Okay, the standard American diet. Elevate your health. I was too, right? How many of us were told to have 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day? Right? A major contributor to these health issues is our habit of constantly eating or snacking throughout the day. Most of us were taught to eat all these 3 meals, right? And that eating pattern has become ingrained in our routines. But the reality is that very few people are actually in perfect health. Now, while we might be living longer, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about longevity. It's about how good you feel as we age. See, your body is capable of healing itself. But if you don't start making changes now, your health will derail down the line. I see it all the time. Let me ask you a question. What is the most important meal of your day? Drop your answer in the chat. And while you're doing that, I want to recommend a couple books. One is Why We Get Sick, okay? And the other is and Why We Get Sick is by Dr. Benjamin Bickman. He's a professor at BYU. And the other is by Dr. Robert Lustig. He wrote a book called Metabolical. And Dr. Robert Lustig, he is a nutrition genius, okay? He went to MIT. He's got a medical degree from Cornell. He's got a law degree, super smart, okay? Okay, I see dinner, I see lunch, late breakfast for me. Okay, Bridget, thank you for that. Andre, lunch, okay? I was actually told that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Now, break fast, breakfast, right? The meal that ends your fast. That is the most important meal of the day, right? Whether that's at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. Because whatever you eat first is technically considered your breakfast, right? The key is what you eat when you break your fast, because that first meal of the day sets the tone for everything else. And Mama Shiva, thank you for the follow. And here's what I mean by that. Has any of you ever noticed that when you eat a breakfast that is full of carbs, maybe you're having a bowl of loops of fruit, right? And let's say that you have a bagel or a bowl of cereal and you have juice. Do you guys ever notice that 30 minutes after having breakfast, you're tired or you're hungry already? And user162, thank you for the follow. Here's the reality. Maybe breakfast was just a marketing tactic to sell you more cereals and bagels, right? That whole idea, if you didn't know, was created by the brothers of Kellogg's, right? They created this idea back in the 70s that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Break your fast. I want you to think about this for a second. Break your fast meant something different for our ancestors. Guys, your body actually runs better when you wait a little bit to eat. So when you wake up first thing in the morning and the first thing you go to is your coffee and you dump the cream and the sugars in it, you literally blow up your blood sugar like a roller coaster. And believe it or not, that'll go like a rocket and it comes crashing down. And now we're eating food that is also doing the same thing. And so you're stacking on insulin spike, on insulin spike, on insulin spike. And remember, elevated amounts of insulin is storing FAT in your body. Your body runs better when you wait a little bit. And I would encourage you to do that, right? Because after about 8 hours without food, your body literally burns through your stored sugar from the foods that we've eaten. And now it starts tapping in to your FAT for fuel. So if you've got the excess belly FAT, right, your love handles, your body's going to start eating through that as your primary source of energy. The moment any one of us eat, right, this is how insulin works. The moment you eat, especially sugar and especially carbs, you spike your blood sugar and your insulin spikes. That's normal. That is normal. That's basic biology, right? That's physiology inside of our bodies. This is what happens. The problem is most of you are eating all day long. So if you are eating all day long, your insulin stays up here. Your insulin never has the ability to come down because it's high all the time. So now your body's in storage mode all the time. And by the way, if breakfast is your favorite meal like it is for me, it's totally fine. But consider having breakfast for lunch or dinner. Okay, Bridget Spears, thank you for the follow. And if I just one, I didn't quite understand your comment, but folks, if breakfast is your favorite meal, okay, just consider having it for later in the day, lunch or dinner. When you go, and I teach fasting, okay, fasting is so powerful. Fasting is one of the best things that you can do to heal your gut. Because when you go for extended periods without eating, your blood sugar doesn't spike. Eating food causes your blood sugar to rise, which triggers insulin to move that glucose out of your bloodstream into your cells. Your body uses this for energy. But the reason why your cells become resistant to insulin, it refuses to open up and accept the glucose. And so what happens is this leads to excess glucose being stored in places like your liver. It contributes to what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And I want you guys to understand something. Before 1980, people that had fatty liver, these were people who were alcoholics. Now they call it non-alcoholic. And now you've got 3-year-olds that are being diagnosed with this. Okay, Dreamlight, thank you for hopping on this live. Folks, I want you guys to understand something. Okay? If we are eating all the time, you're going to develop a lot of health issues. When you go longer periods of time and you're avoiding food, all you're doing is you're giving your body a break. You're giving insulin a break. Folks, insulin is not your friend. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. It's not our friend. It actually makes things worse. Okay. Now, I've only got a few more minutes before I hop off, but I want to talk about something that has been debated for a really long time, and that's whether or not carbohydrates are essential. And I'm curious, what do you think? And Sharmila, and a beautiful name, 85, thank you for the follow. Mohammed, thank you for the follow. Okay. Thank you to everyone. Jacob, Cam, thank you, Seb, for the follow. I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing this, for tapping the screen. When you do that, you're letting TikTok know that this needs to be shared. Okay. And for those of you that can't stay for the duration, I've pinned a form here that can help you. Right? Now, do you guys believe that carbohydrates are essential? Okay. We've got protein, you've got fats, and you've got carbohydrates. Which one of those is not essential? And Rick Steps, thank you for the follow. Okay. Folks, I had no idea what insulin resistance was. My friend, who is a former rocket scientist, is the one that taught me what it is. Okay. It's not something that they teach in school, and it's not even something that's discussed in most doctors' offices. This is the scary part. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a doctor that is talking to you about insulin resistance, hold on to them. Because the sad reality is that most healthcare professionals, they're not addressing this. Even though it's the root cause of all of these health issues that we have, they don't talk about it. User 562, thank you for the follow. Okay. Folks, I believe it's important to understand why we have these health issues and, more importantly, what we can do about them. Okay. Fasting and fiber. These are two things that you can start to do that will improve your health immensely. Okay. And I'll also share a tool that makes it easier. Okay. This is exactly why I teach this system, right? So we've got carbohydrates, protein, and fats. Okay. Believe it or not, protein is absolutely necessary. Our brain needs it, right? Our muscles need it. And fats, right? Our body can't produce this on its own. So we've got to, like omega 3s and omega 6s, so we've got to get this from our food. Okay. Now, carbohydrates are really the only non-essential macronutrient that your body doesn't need. And let me just explain why. When you go for longer periods of time without needing food or eating food, what happens is that your body starts converting your stored FAT and it creates ketones out of it. Ketones can get into your cells without the need for carbs. Seriously. And if you know anybody that is dealing with viruses and candida, harmful bacteria, even the C word, right? That we celebrate in September with pink ribbons. You guys realize that when your body creates ketones, that's one of the most powerful ways to even combat those C cells? Do you know that? And Bridget, berries are great. Berries are actually really they're high in nutrients, right? Berries are great. There are some fruits, though, that if you are insulin resistant, like a banana, I used to eat bananas all the time. If you are insulin resistant and you're dealing with these health issues, folks, eating a banana first thing in the morning is not the most ideal thing to do because it will just blow up your blood sugar like a roller coaster. You know what's interesting is when this company came out with this whole mantra that breakfast was the most important meal of the day, did you know that they actually paid doctors to claim that bananas were rich in potassium? Bananas are actually not rich in potassium at all, but they created this idea that slicing bananas and putting it on top of your cereal and pouring milk in was the ideal thing to do. Most of you probably never even knew this. I didn't know this, but I know now. And so there are some fruits that and think about an apple, right? Think about for an apple for a second, or even an orange. How many of you love orange juice? Be honest. How many of you love apple juice? Okay. How many of you would rather drink the juice of that fruit instead of eating an apple or eating the orange? Here's the point I'm making, right? Most carbohydrates found in nature are wrapped in fiber. Apple, rice, wheat, sugarcane. It is all wrapped in fiber. But what happens is when the food industry starts intentionally taking fiber out of our food, right, we are left with, like, for instance, wheat. They strip the fiber and we are left with white flour. White flour is actually one of the worst for your body, right? Think about sugarcane. They strip the fiber and we are left with just the sugarcane itself, right? Just the sugar. When you eat an apple and you're eating it with the peel, you're going to get full, right? Maybe you can get through 1 or 2 apples, but the idea is that when you're eating that apple with the peel, you're eating the fiber. That fiber is what expands, it's what fills you up. But when you drink that apple juice, and maybe it takes 3, 4, 5 apples to make that half a glass of apple juice, you are literally drinking sugar water. It will blow up your blood sugar like a rocket, and then it'll come crashing down. Bridget, I love that you just brought that, right? Fructose corn syrup. This is even worse. This is like taking gasoline and throwing it on a fire. If you want to understand why more than 50% of our kids are overweight or obese, here's why. Fructose, fructose and alcohol, it literally goes straight to the liver, and this is where it gets broken down. This is why people develop fatty liver disease. Content promo, thank you. Okay, but Bridget, high fructose corn syrup is found in just about everything that we eat. It wreaks havoc on our body. But I want you guys to understand something, okay? It all comes down to insulin. We have way too much insulin in our bodies, and our cells become resistant to it. So what do we do to control insulin? Well, one that I teach is fasting. Shrinking your eating window is so important because the norm for many people is now eating for 15 hours a day, right? Folks, we are literally grazing all day long. Radar Systems, thank you, appreciate that. And if you like the content, tap the screen, please follow. I love that. Here's a form that you can fill out if you want to stay in touch and if you want to learn more about what it is that I use. But shrink your eating window. Most of us, from the time that we're waking up to the time we go to bed, we're snacking, we're grazing, we're literally eating all day long. Okay? That's part of the reason why we're tired all the time and why we're overweight and why we're dealing with so many health issues. No wonder why I gained weight and developed skin tags, brain fog, sleep issues, right? Because we're eating all the time. Okay? You know, it's important. Fasting is one of the best things. Okay? Fasting absolutely can help you. Alika. Okay? The second thing I teach is fiber. Have fiber with your meal. This is why I freaking love this one. This is created by Rexall Drugs, by the way. Most people are not getting enough fiber, and that's a huge issue. Okay? To control insulin, you need to have more fiber with your meals. Now, I use a special one that was created, right? It's got 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. Okay? It was created by Rexall Drugs, and if any of you remember Rexall, they used to be the biggest drugstore in the world. And they created this blend of fiber for 2 reasons. The food industry was taking fiber out of our foods. And the second thing is that they wanted to put fiber back in to eradicate heart disease naturally. You guys realize that heart disease is the #1 killer in the world. You guys remember when I started this live, and I know some of you are new to this live, but if you had a solution to the problem of insulin resistance, whose life would you change? Whose life would you help? Folks, I am living proof. I had stage 4 kidney disease. I had stage 4 kidney disease. I had migraine headaches that I had for 23 years. I had acid reflux. I had brain fog, sleep apnea. I had all of these things. And I am so grateful that my friend cared enough about me to reach out and said, hey, here's a tool that my husband's using. It might work for you. I want you to look into it. It came with a 90-day money-back guarantee. So I'm like, why not? What do I have to lose? So in January of 2024, I decided to get on this system. I'm actually sipping on a chlorogenic tea. It's got the yerba mate plant. It's not even really a tea, but it tastes freaking amazing. This that I'm sipping on, it's a natural metformin. It's a natural GLP-1. It actually helps your body to increase your own production of GLP-1 by 70%. And by the way, you can't actually give yourself. So if you're on this, you can't actually give your body a GLP-1. Your body makes it. Can you get 3 meals a day on intermittent fasting? Why would you want 3 meals a day if you're intermittent fasting? I eat 1 to 2 meals a day. Folks, we don't need 3 meals a day. You really don't. Go back 200 years ago. Our ancestors were lucky if they had 1 meal, right? They hunted their food. They planted their crops, okay? They didn't have a Starbucks to roll up in their, horse and buggy and get a Starbucks coffee. They didn't have that. Seriously. Like, break your fast meant something entirely different to our ancestors because they weren't having 3 meals a day. They weren't snacking throughout the day. A lot of the foods that we eat today are full of fructose. It's full of seed oils, trans fats, and it's crazy. And insulin resistance is one of the root causes of things like obesity. So if you feel constant cravings, if you're hungry all the time, okay, if you're having a hard time losing weight, especially if you have this protruding belly, okay, and Google it. And Deca, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. And Florenciopina, it's a natural extract of the stevia plant. Okay, it's all natural. And so if you have these health issues, right, we can pinpoint, and now we can connect the dots on what is actually causing these health issues. Guys, I don't care how long you've been dealing with these health issues. You can improve it just like insulin sensitivity can be improved. So heart disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide. And yet many people don't realize that insulin resistance is the key driver of this risk. And here's what's even more concerning about this. It is rarely tested, which leaves most people completely unaware of the impact that this is having on their health. When you go to your doctor and your doctor checks your glucose, you guys realize that checking your glucose is like having a basement in your house and it looks dry on the surface, but is actually full of water beneath it. Folks, insulin resistance doesn't just increase your risk for these conditions like cardiovascular disease and dementia and high blood pressure and stroke and all these things, even the C word. It also shortens your lifespan. It is a key predictor of early heart disease. And what I love about the system that I use, it is clinically proven to reduce your triglycerides, your total cholesterol, your LDL. It improves your HDL. It improves your insulin sensitivity. It is an absolute game changer. And this is why I get on here every day and share this with people. This chlorogenic tea made from the yerba mate plant, okay? So testing for insulin resistance, folks, it's actually super simple. The most precise method is measuring your fasting insulin. You guys realize that when you go to a doctor, they don't check your fasting insulin levels. They don't test for inflammation, chronic inflammation, right? You guys realize that your fasting insulin is what controls your glucose levels? Your glucose levels can look normal all the time, right? This is one of the reasons why most of you are being blindsided by a doctor in regards to insulin resistance. Black coffee is great. A1G, right? I don't drink coffee, but if you're drinking black coffee, it's fine. It doesn't break your fast, actually. Jay Blue, thank you for the follow. Folks, here's the good news. Insulin resistance can be reversed. It can be improved, right? And the most effective approach combines good nutrition, regular exercise, okay? And both are essential, but you can't address insulin resistance with diet or exercise alone, which is why I teach fasting and fiber. And the third thing is just making sure that you have the right tools. Now, here's how Simple. The system is that I use every single day. I have a packet of a yerba mate chlorogenic acid tea. It actually helps me to fast longer. Okay. And Tanae and Tanoi, if any of you have ever heard of Dr. Andrew Huberman, he raves on yerba mate's ability to not only suppress your appetite, but it aids in fat loss. Because yerba mate, right, when you sip on it, it is loaded with theobromine and chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid is a natural insulin sensitizer, okay? So it shuts the food noise off. It's like turning the switch off. And it turns that switch off and it helps you to go throughout the day without feeling hungry at all. I used to struggle with fasting, right? I would fast, maybe skip a meal, and then I would binge eat, right? How many of us do that, right? Roxy, thank you so much. Okay. So here's how easy this is. When I wake up in the morning, I make my tea and I sip on this all morning. Okay. And what it does is it shuts the food noise off. It increases my energy levels naturally. The brain fog goes away, right? This is, ladies and gentlemen, what I've been using for 2 years. Most people don't even know that this exists because when you go to a doctor, they are diagnosing and treating your symptoms, right? When was the last time that your doctor said, hey, you know what, Jennifer, here's a natural alternative. I'm not making any money off this, but this could help you. Guys, doctors test what they can medicate, right? So when I wake up in the morning, I sip on this tea. I skip breakfast. Okay. Now, A1G, I'm not talking about the fiber that you get at the grocery store, right? There's a lot of fillers in that make it very palatable, right? What I use is a fiber that was created by Rexall Drugs. Now, you can get fiber from our foods like broccoli, beans, flax, chia seeds, artichokes, avocados, right? These are some great sources of fiber, right? Most of us are not getting enough fiber in our diet, though. This is why I love this. I can take this anywhere. When I travel, I can take it, and it's just easy to mix with water. I drink it right before I eat my biggest meal, and it was studied, folks. This was studied by the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic in Ohio happens to be the #1 heart hospital in the world. They studied this, and they said, folks, that if people were to use this on a regular basis, it would decrease cardiovascular disease on a population basis. Folks, you're not going to find a better fiber. We can get fiber from our foods. Fiber is important. We need fiber. We're getting less than half of the fiber that we need. But this particular fiber is made of a blend of 7 soluble and insoluble fibers. And when it comes together, it literally creates a barrier. It prevents and eliminates the glucose and the insulin spike, okay, that happens as a result of the foods that you eat. So I take this right before any meal that I have. But I sip on this tea all day. I sip on it in the morning. I sip on it after lunch, okay? Guys, this is what I use and have been using since January of 2024 that has not only improved my insulin sensitivity, stage 4 kidney disease, okay, I don't have that anymore. Acid reflux is gone. Sleep like a baby. I mean, the reality, folks, is that we have a solution to a big problem, and hardly anybody knows about it, which is why I get on and do these lives. And I'm hoping in the next couple days that I will have back the TikTok shop. But folks, if you want to connect and learn more about what it is that I use, okay, I've pinned a form that you can fill out. I would love for you to stay in contact with me. I would love to even jump on a call. If you are serious about improving your health, you don't have to wait to fix it. Seriously, you can improve your health in ways that medication and diets will never be able to do. Stage 4 kidney disease gone. Bellary, okay? I take this everywhere I go. It's not hard to have this in your purse or your backpack, your laptop bag. I mean, I carry this everywhere I go. I have it in my car. I don't go anywhere without it. And if you're ever around me, I don't ever go anywhere without taking my bottle. It almost sounds like I'm a baby and I've got a little sippy bottle, right? But I literally take this everywhere I go. I don't go anywhere without it. Folks, I'm living proof that you can improve insulin sensitivity I donated a kidney, and 7 years later, I'm told I had stage 4 kidney disease. I don't have it anymore. Folks, I have helped hundreds of people literally all around the world, right? This is exactly retro AG. I love that. This is exactly why it is called the Feel Great System, because it makes you feel great. Now, folks, if you watch my pin videos on my TikTok page, if you see on my TikTok profile, okay, watch the pin videos. It'll explain exactly how and why this system is so powerful. And I did put the LINK back in my BIO this morning. So if you are curious about what it is that I use, folks, it is about $5 a day, $5.10 a day, I think. It comes with a 90-day money back guarantee. Folks, if it doesn't work, just cancel. Just get your money back. Folks, there's no risk in using something that if it doesn't work, you just get your money back. Lives a few good things. I love your handle, right? We have many people who have been battling different types of the C word. I'm not allowed to say the C word on this live. It's crazy. But we've had lots of people that have battled that have improved their insulin sensitivity. Because here's the reality: when you give your body the right tools, the right nutrients, the right keys, right? Our bodies are powerful. You can actually improve insulin sensitivity. Guys, our bodies are designed to heal itself on its own. The problem is that most of us don't realize how often and frequently we are poisoning our bodies by what we put in our body. Does that make sense? Folks, we have a proof of a solution to a major problem. Hardly anybody knows about it. I love sharing this with people. This has completely changed my life. And Liz, I would encourage to work with your doctor. By the way, the system I use, your doctor can look it up in the PDR. We're in the PDR, folks. We're not in the PDR. If we think about this, not just anything can get in the PDR or the PubMed.gov, right? We have a solution to a big problem. It is clinically proven to work. It is just as effective and often works better than the medications often prescribed. It can work with what you're already doing. There's no contraindications. Okay, folks, if this resonates with you, if it sounds like what you have been praying for and what you are looking for, this can change your life. I've pinned a form, folks. If you want to connect, I'm happy to even jump on a call with you. I would love to do that. Okay, folks, I've got to run. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being on this live. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Normally I share so much more, but I'm limited on time today. But if you are willing to connect, I'm happy to jump on a call and share even more with you. Okay.